The next topic, constructed wetlands. So you can link this topic with environmental pollution, degradation, conservation, these subtopics of GS3. It is not GS2, it is GS3. This is by mistake. Next, tell me, what are wetlands? What do you understand by this term wetlands? Areas surrounded by water. So oceans are wetlands. Marshy lands are wetlands. Basically, wetlands are an ecosystem which lies in a transitional area. Transitional area where land and water meets. So what all places generally a land and water meets? Coastal areas where sea water and land meets, then around the lakes, then around the rivers, yes or no, or any such area which has a very high water table, which are generally some portion, it could be some portions of forest which are marshy and swampy, even that will be considered as a wetland. Okay? Now wetlands are very important for environment because, like, why they are important? First of all, they have the maximum biodiversity. Like, you will find the biodiversity from the terrestrial ecosystem, land ecosystem, and you will find some biodiversity from the aquatic ecosystem, and then you will also find the biodiversity which is common in both the ecosystem. You will find biodiversity which is unique to that wetland ecosystem. Okay, but this is constructed wetlands. The topic in news is constructed wetlands. Now, how it is different from regular wetlands? Constructed wetlands are something that you are one wetland, all these areas which I earlier mentioned are naturally occurring. But don't you think you can also build some wetlands? So we will discuss that how these constructed wetlands are different from your regular wetlands. But before coming to constructed wetlands, I will elaborate a little on what are wetlands and how they are covered. There is a very important convention for these wetlands internationally, Ramsar convention, alright, and this type of news is very common, that how many Ramsar sites have been added, okay, which state has maximum Ramsar sites, or which are the newest Ramsar sites added this year. I will talk on that as well. So why this topic is important? Recently there has been a shift towards constructed wetlands which are more comprehensive and nature based solution for industrial waste water treatment. In 2022 there was a question in prelims. What do we call lungs of the earth? Amazon forest is referred, or generally the forests are referred to as the lungs of the earth. And then what are the kidneys of the earth? This was the question, and the answer is wetland. Have you gone through that question? Like, it is a straightforward question, that the forest is the lungs of the earth, then what represents the kidney? So it was the answer. So coming to what are wetlands, these are the areas where the water is the primary factor controlling the environment and associated plant and animal life. They occur where the water table is at or near the surface of the land, or where land is covered by water. All these areas will be called as wetlands. Wetlands are defined as lands transitional between terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem, where the water table is usually at or near the surface or land is covered by shallow water. So basically it is one and the same thing. I have already explained this. Then what are the types of wetlands? Again I have highlighted this. First, coastal wetlands. They are found in the areas between land and open sea. They are not influenced by rivers such as shoreline, beaches, mangroves, coral reefs, or all are part of wetlands. Okay. A good example of mangrove swamps found in sheltered tropical coastal areas, and we have one of the biggest example of such mangrove forest, Sundarban. Okay, it is the biggest, largest mangrove forest of the world, Sundarban. It is an example of coastal wetland. Then the next is shallow lakes and ponds, area around shallow lakes and ponds. These wetlands are permanent or semi-permanent water with little flow. Have you seen some ponds near the villages which gets water during the rainy season and all other season they are dry? So even they fulfill the characteristic of a wetland. They are semi-permanent in nature. They are not that permanent. That means the water is not there throughout the year. So this is one. The next one is marshes. Marshes is that swampy land. These are periodically saturated, flooded or ponded with water that are characterized by herbaceous vegetation. Herbaceous is non-woody. That means a vegetation, there will be no trees, but there will be a vegetation which is non-woody in nature. Okay, like shrubs, bushes type of a vegetation. So vegetation is adapted to wet soil condition. Marshes and other factors characterized as tidal marshes and non-tidal marshes. What is the difference between tidal marshes and non-tidal marshes? Basically, all those areas near the coast which gets filled with water during the event of high tide. Those are known as tidal marshes. So water will come in some part of the day and then water will recede back in some part of the day. Then non-tidal marshes will be all those areas maybe in a forest which in a forest where there is water table is way too high, which is almost at the subsoil level. Okay, so these are tidal and non-tidal marshes. Then there is swamps. These are fed primarily by surface water inputs and they are largely dominated by trees and shrubs. In marshes, what is the difference between marshes and swamps? In marshes there is no trees, in swamps there are trees, woody vegetation is there. Swamps occur in fresh water or salt water floodplains. Swamps are nothing but like whenever rains happens, you see water get accumulated in some patch of land in the forest. That is swamps. Bogs. Bogs are waterlogged peatland in old lake basins or depressions in a landscape. Almost all water bogs comes from rainfall. So have you seen that muddy, that कीचड़ like areas? Like there are some, वैसे तो Indian roads भी ऐसी हो जाती हैं, but I am talking about those depressions. Like every village has some depressions outside. Generally village के बाहर एक ऐसे कुछ depressions होते हैं जो इलाका थोड़ी सी बारिश में ही कीचड़ भरा हो जाता है. So those are known as bogs. वैसे villages example नहीं होगा क्योंकि ये peatlands होते हैं. You will find these type of topography close to in those areas where there is heavy rainfall. वहां पर ऐसे bogs ज़्यादा होते हैं. Kerala, you will find many peatlands there. Then estuaries. What are estuaries? It is like there is a difference. River meets the ocean forming two important landforms. One is delta and the other one is estuary. What is the difference between the two? Both will have wetlands. Okay. In delta, the river will accumulate all the sediments what it is bringing throughout the course of its river. In estuaries, the river suddenly meets the ocean without forming a delta. Okay, so even that region will act as a wetland. So there are areas where river meet the sea and water changes from fresh to salt and can offer extremely rich mix of biodiversity. These wetlands includes deltas, tidal mudflats, salt marshes, etc. Okay, so these are the types of wetlands. Very quickly, Ramsar Convention. It is an intergovernmental treaty adopted on 2nd February 1971 in the Iranian city of Ramsar on the southern shore of Caspian Sea. India came into force it came into force in 1982, under which the wetland of international importance are declared as Ramsar sites. Okay, so can you tell me how many sites do we have in India? As per the last update, it was 80. Okay, and this has been added this year. 5 has been added this year. February में World Wetland Day के around ही ये add करा था. So in February 2024, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change announced on the eve of World Wetland Day, India has increased its tally for Ramsar sites from 75 to 80, designating 5 more wetland sites of Ramsar, and these 5 are Ankasa Mudra Bird Conservation Reserve, Aghani Nashni Estuary and Magadi Keri Conservation Reserve. All 3 are in Karnataka. Then Karaivati Bird Sanctuary and Longwood Shola Reserve Forest in Tamil Nadu. So 2 in Tamil Nadu and 3 in Karnataka was added this year. Tamil Nadu right now continue to have the maximum Ramsar sites, that are 16 in number, and Uttar Pradesh 10. Second highest are Uttar Pradesh. So guys, add this 5 sites in your notes, read about them a little. एक बार इनकी लोकेशन, अच्छा जब पढ़ोगे तो आसपास कौन से नेशनल पार्क हैं, कौन सी वाइल्ड लाइफ सेंचुरी हैं, read about this as well, because UPSC loves to ask these type of questions. Yes, just hold on, I will ask you to write that. Basically एस्चुरियन उसमें हमने डेल्टाइटिक वेटलैंड्स को भी ऐड करा हुआ है. जस्ट यू नोट डाउन, आई विल शो यू इन द प्रीवियस स्लाइड. यू नोट डाउन दीज थिंग्स फर्स्ट एंड देन आई विल शो यू दैट. Done? Okay. So coming to your doubt, see in estuarine type of wetlands, इसमें deltas भी added है, ठीक है? So yes, delta is a wetland. Okay. Now coming to that current affairs, constructed wetlands. Basically, when in wetland, what is the dominant source is the water. So even we can mix, in order to have a sustainable use of wetlands, even we can mix the water, let's say a water coming from industrial discharge, कोई industrial waste water है, we can transform that water into some constructed wetland, so it will have multiple advantages. What are those? We'll see it one by one. So constructed wetlands are nothing but engineered systems designed to replicate natural process of wetlands for wastewater treatment. They consist of carefully selected vegetation, soil and water that work together to purify wastewater. That means you deliberately set a type of a vegetation, soil and water there so that it can work on the industrial waste. By the way, what advantage these wetlands give you? Natural ones. Can you tell me? What are the benefits of these wetlands? They maintain groundwater. Not just maintaining groundwater, but can I say they control the flow of water, the availability of water. Like for example, in dry seasons, these wetlands will manage the groundwater, or some of the water will come out from in the form of capillary action. So it will be self-sustaining for the biodiversity in that region. Then in the wet spell, when there is too much of water that pours down, they try to regulate the overflow of water as well. Flooding भी prevent करते हैं ये wetland. They regulate the flow of water. And then biodiversity conservation. What else? What other advantage do they have?
They provide shelter for.
It provides habitat to a good amount of biodiversity. Yes, very good. What else? It acts as a natural filter. अभी बात तो करी थी. There are specific plants here which absorbs certain harmful chemicals, especially heavy metals. Do you know this is also an important role played by these wetlands. अभी तो वैसे बहुत सारी research आ चुकी है that how plastic is impacting the working of these wetlands. Okay, microplastic is one more environmental concern. ये हर मंथ आपको किसी ना किसी रूप में आर्टिकल्स में आपको देखने को मिलेगा. Every month you will see articles on microplastics. Like very recently, just last week, there was one article where microplastics have been discovered in organs now, that too reproductory organs of humans. Blood में पहुंच चुका है microplastics. I hope you know what is microplastics. What are microplastics? Plastics that is reduced to a nanoscale. Like for example, if I throw a water bottle in the soil, don't you think some components of that water bottle and the plastic from that will mix in the soil and it will remain there permanently? It will be as small as that it can be absorbed by the plant. Or another way of understanding it, let's say if this bottle is thrown into the ocean, even there the bottle will regenerate, like it will disperse into smaller pieces, erosion, weathering and all those processes. It will be broken down into many pieces. It will be broken down into so small pieces that it will enter the fishes. It is known as bioaccumulation. Plastic getting into the food chain. Bioaccumulation. Fishes are eating those plants where these plastics are there, they are getting in the bodies of the fish. Now when these plastic enters the fish, it doesn't get excreted out. It remains in the body of that fish. Now when this small fish is eaten by big fish, don't you think that plastic will be transformed into another fish, then another bigger fish, and when human will eat that fish, don't you think that plastic will come again back to human? So when plastic enters into a living organism, it is known as bioaccumulation. And when this plastic moves into food chain, it is known as biomagnification. And these two are the important problems that we are facing in environment. Have you heard of an artificial island that has been created because of a plastic waste in Pacific Ocean? Have you never heard of this thing? Search about this thing. आज एक बार सर्च करके देखना, द प्लास्टिक आइलैंड इन पैसिफिक ओशन. दैट एक प्लास्टिक वेस्ट से और ओशन में करंट्स की वजह से जितना भी प्लास्टिक आप टूरिस्ट या किसी भी बीच पर फेंका जाता है वो इकट्ठा हो चुका है पैसिफिक ओशन, सेंट्रल पैसिफिक ओशन में. एंड दैट आइलैंड, डू यू नो हाउ बिग इट इज? आई गेस एज बिग एज फ्रांस, floating in the ocean. Now can you think of removing that much plastic from the ocean? आप कैसे निकालोगे? कितना पैसा लगेगा इतने सारे प्लास्टिक को निकालने में? So this is creating a problem of microplastics. Maybe I cannot cover this. मैंने इस month के current affair में there was one article which was there in news, microplastic in reproductive organs. इसलिए माइक्रोप्लास्टिक फिर से न्यूज में था मैंने, बट ऐड नहीं करा क्योंकि अदर इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक्स मेरे को मिल गए थे ऐड करने के लिए. बट दिस इज समथिंग दैट यू कैन रीड. माइक्रोप्लास्टिक एक ऐसा एरिया है जिस पर यूपीएससी ने क्वेश्चंस पूछे हुए हैं मेंस में. विल कम टू दैट, विल कवर दैट इन सम और द अदर मंथ्स. सो कमिंग बैक टू द कंस्ट्रक्टेड वेटलैंड्स, everyone understood what are the largely the benefits of a wetland. Now even if we replicate this आर्टिफिशियली, कहीं ना कहीं तो वो एडवांटेज देगा हमें. अगर हम नेचुरली वेटलैंड्स को बना दें तो उसके एडवांटेजेस होंगे. तो दिस आर्टिकल बेसिकली टॉक्स अबाउट दैट ओनली. सो कंस्ट्रक्टेड वेटलैंड, दे कंसिस्ट ऑफ केयरफुली सेलेक्टेड vegetation, soil and water that works together to purify wastewater. These wetlands are specifically designed to promote growth of beneficial microorganisms and plants that can break down pollutants and improve water quality. In wetlands में आप ऐसे plants को grow करोगे because it is artificially constructed, so you will decide what plants will grow. So when it will grow, it will break the pollutants and it will absorb the pollutant, thereby making water more sustainable. उसका water का quality improve होगा. Now what are the types of constructed wetlands? Subsurface flow and surface flow. Subsurface flow wetlands involve passing wastewater through gravel beds or porous media where microbial activity can degrade organic matter. Like for example, if there is a wastewater coming out of the industry, do you know that if I place stones, let's say if I place stones in a river and I create a kind of a dam, I am placing stones and I am creating a dam. That wall of stones, will that wall act as a filter for the sediments? Will some amount of let's say pollutant in the water will be stopped by that wall? मैं ये नहीं कह रहा सब कुछ हो जाएगा, but कुछ amount of, let's say there is a plastic bottle, don't you think that will stop that? So we can create these kind of wetlands which is subsurface flow. That means you will regulate the flow of water using gravel beds. छोटे छोटे पत्थरों के आप ऐसे बेड्स बना के उसको, उस फ्लो ऑफ वाटर को आप कंट्रोल करोगे जिससे the microbial activity will kill all organic matter. Like for example, guys, have you seen those lakes where there is no fishes alive? Green lakes. Have you seen those lakes? ऐसे water bodies where there is no organism living. Now what is the reason when this thing happens? Like, it is known as eutrophied lake. Very good. The process is eutrophication. But what has led to no life? Basically zero oxygen in the water. The fishes will survive on oxygen. When there is no oxygen, that means no organism can survive. But microbial activity, like some amount of microbial activity is healthy. In eutrophied lake, the microbial activity reaches 100%. That means whatever organic matter is present in the water, everything is eaten away by the bacteria. As a result, when bacteria will act, they will also consume oxygen and release other gases. So in a way, they are decaying the body. But if you do this in a controlled manner, if you use microbial activity in a controlled manner, don't you think it will improve the overall water quality of the water? Like, it will kill all the organic matter, all the organic waste, and then making the water a little cleaner. So it has to be balanced. Then surface flow constructed wetlands, they have water flowing above the surface, often creating aesthetically pleasing landscape with diverse vegetation. Subsurface flow generally surface पर नहीं दिखता, water flowing not at the surface but at the lower levels, below the surface. But surface flow will be like a regular wetland what you see from the eyes. You stop a good amount of water in some area, some industrial area, so that water, if the water is clean, it will act as a constructed wetland. Alright, so same thing, what nature is creating, nature is also creating subsurface, like swamps and bogs are subsurface wetlands. You can match them, and the other lakes, rivers will be example of surface flow. But the only difference is this is constructed by man, that is naturally occurring. So what are the benefits of constructed wetland? Just like regular wetlands, it will be a traditional treatment method for physical and chemical treatment, often struggle to effectively treat complex mix of pollutants found in industrial water. These methods can be costly, energy intensive, and may not completely remove all contaminants. There comes the role of more comprehensive sustainable solutions like constructed wetlands. Wherever we are not in a situation to clean and discharge the industrial water, you can pass that water through these wetlands. Like for example, have you seen the condition of Yamuna? At least on the TV, or any river in fact. No river is safe now, even Ganga. As soon as Ganga crosses and enters Uttar Pradesh, even that Ganga has turned very bad in color. Like by the time it reaches Bihar and Bengal, it is again, Ganga is also almost black. Okay, so if we make certain policies which makes it obligatory for all these industries to pass their water from such constructed wetlands, it will lead to clean water reaching the ocean. Environmental benefits, don't you think if you create an artificial lake, even that will provide some or the other kind of habitat to different organisms? Moreover, they can provide ecosystem services such as food control, carbon sequestration, enhancing ecological significance value. Constructed wetlands are also sustainable solution for water treatment. They require minimal energy and utilize natural processes for purification. So it's a natural filter. Then cost effective. These wetlands are easy to maintain. Like, why do you think these industries are not investing in treating the water, treating the wastewater? Because it will add more cost on them. The main reason is the cost. Everyone can treat whatever waste they are creating, okay, but nobody wants to treat them because it will add an additional cost on them. Whenever there is an additional cost, that means their profit will reduce. So constructed wetlands are more cost effective in nature, they are less expensive. Then nutrient removal, they are efficient in removing pollutants like nitrogen, phosphorus and organic matters. Like, you will understand all these points when you will do your nitrogen cycle, phosphorus cycle, how these nitrogen and phosphorus are absorbed from the nature. This is part of your core environment, वहाँ पर आपको पढ़ाया जाएगा. Land reclamation, these systems can be used to reclaim degraded land by mining activities and restoring the natural wetland functions. So we are degrading our forest, we are degrading our wetlands. There can be a mix. ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि there was a natural wetland which is now degraded, but you can construct a new wetland there on your own. So a kind of a mix, okay. So it will help you to land reclamation. Let's say a empty mine, there used to be a mine there, but all the mineral they have extracted and now this mine is empty, dumped. That region can be used as a constructed wetland. It will increase the biodiversity in that region, okay. So it will help in land reclamation. Then other benefits will be application. It can help to treat municipal wastewater. Constructed wetlands can be secondary or tertiary treatment for municipal waste, improving the water quality before the discharge or reuse. Like generally, our domestic waste, the sewage lines, they are connected to the drains, and then these drains take that sewage to the rivers and it is directly dumped into the rivers. Okay, but what if we pass this municipal waste through these wetlands? It will help to improve the quality of the water. Storm water management. Generally urban areas are struggling with 15 minutes of rain enough to cover all the streets. The reason is there is no storm water management. Whatever excess water is coming, it is not being regulated. So constructed wetlands will help you to regulate storm water. Industrial wastewater treatment, I have already explained that. Agriculture, they can be used to treat agricultural runoff. Have you seen all those states where generally, it is very often in Punjab and Haryana, where they water the fields in a very excess amount. Excess watering is going on. So whenever you water the fields in excess, whatever fertilizers, pesticides, chemicals are there in the field will run off towards the rivers. Okay, but if you pass such, let's say you create a wetland between a river and an agricultural field, or from where there is a possibility of agricultural runoff, you can reduce all the fertilizers reaching into the river. So this is also one more advantage. Now what are the examples of constructed wetland? One is very near to you, Asola Bhati Wildlife Sanctuary in Delhi. There is one wildlife sanctuary near Okhla, Asola Bhati. It uses constructed wetland to purify sewage from the nearby settlements while providing sanctuary for flora and fauna. This is one of the green region in Delhi. Delhi has only 2-3 patches of green. Okay, one is this wildlife sanctuary, the other one is North Campus Ridge area. These are only 2-3 green patches that we have. One is Yamuna Biodiversity Park. So that's it. Similarly, Kolkata East Wetland in West Bengal, it is also used to treat wastewater. In Rajasthan, Saraska Tiger Reserve has embarked on an innovative initiative utilizing constructed wetlands for treating wastewater. The difference is here, what is wetland and constructed wetland. I have added it in a form of a chart, you can read it later on. Very quickly, challenges. Before we end today's class, challenges. What are the challenges for these constructed wetlands? First is plant selection. See, a wetland which is created by the nature and a wetland that you are managing, humans are managing, it cannot match what nature has created. Nature has created the best possible species that is applicable in that area. But do you think, is it possible for the human to come out with the best possible species to plant in a constructed wetland? ये हर बार possible हो ये जरूरी नहीं है. So, effective plant selection in constructed wetland is critical for nutrient absorption, pollutant removal. Species like cattails, bushes, sedges providing particularly apt at absorbing nitrogen, phosphorus while providing habitat to beneficial bacteria to degrade the pollutants. Then land requirement. For constructive wetlands, you need more land to be converted as wetlands. We already facing a land crunch. Acquiring land is again a very tough task. So, significant amount of land which might be very limited in urban areas. Like if you want to create constructed wetlands in Delhi, where are the options? Where you will create it? Hardly any space. Okay. So same, the challenge is land requirement. Then treatment efficiency. Again, a natural wetland and a constructed wetland. So at the efficiency what a natural wetland is working, the constructed wetland cannot match that efficiency. Okay. So the effective constructed wetlands might not achieve the same level of purification as conventional treatment plants for heavily polluted water. So it cannot match that pace. Then maintenance. Regular maintenance is required for proper functioning to prevent clogging of mosquito breeding. Let's say you create an artificial wetland in the center of a city, it will attract negative things as well. Then other challenges like clear policy regulation to promote adoption, raising awareness, technical expertise among the stakeholders, continuous monitoring, research optimizing their problem. So what is the way forward? Learning from the global best practices. Design optimization. India can learn from countries like Germany and Netherlands, which are pioneers in constructed wetland design. They are doing this. These nations utilize multi-stage system with free water surface and subsurface flows for optimal treatment depending upon their influent characteristics. So they have done good scientific research in these areas. We can learn from their models. Performance monitoring. The US Environmental Protection Agency recommends establishing a clear performance monitoring protocols. Like your job is not done once you created a wetland. You have to maintain it and regularly do that at regular intervals. So you know that how any infrastructure in our country is maintained. Let's say a road is constructed, you know what is the maintenance. So what is the possibility of maintaining these wetlands? So regular monitoring of water quality, parameters, wetland health is crucial for optimizing the treatment and efficiency. Now how we can implement these wetlands in India? Through policy and regulation. CPCB has already recognized constructed wetlands as viable wastewater treatment option. So we need future policy framework that can incentivize the adoption by municipalities and industries along with clear guidelines of design, operation and maintenance. So we should have a policy framework for this. We need financial instruments from where we will get the money. Money is everything. Exploring innovative financing mechanisms like public-private partnership, subsidies for constructing and maintaining these systems can affect investments and make them more accessible, particularly for smaller communities. So we need financial instruments for that. Then demonstration projects. You need successful demonstration projects across diverse geographical and climatic zone. Let's say a wetland is working very good in coastal area, but it is not working near the river. So you need to study the constructed wetlands at different climatic zones. Then community engagement. Legal community should be involved in, local community should be involved in planning, construction, operations. Again, when you are doing this, traditional people knows the best. Alright? So raising awareness about the benefit of these systems, fostering a sense of ownership will ensure their long-term success. So there is a PYQ, Montreux record. You can add this as homework as well, it is an important topic. Montreux record. It was a question of 2014. And then tell me the answer. Okay, how many for A, B? Some of you are still reading the question. I am giving you 30 seconds more. Please read all the statements. Okay, how many for A, B, C and D? Okay, the correct answer is A. Okay, so Montreux record basically is a register. It notes what are the important wetlands among the Ramsar list. Us Ramsar list has again a list of important wetlands, and among those important, which are most important, will be recorded under this, where the changes in ecological character have occurred, are occurring or likely to occur as a result of technological developments. So where there are many changes going on, it's a list of those wetlands, and so it is maintained as a part of Ramsar list. Basically, which wetland require more attention? Okay, this is a list which is under Montreux record. Then there is a direct question on wetland which is asked already in 2018. When you give two examples of Ramsar sites, try to give some recent examples. The more recent you give, better marks you will fetch. None guys? Okay.